What's up, nerds? We've got a lot going on, a lot to catch up on, so let's just do it. It is about 6 p.m. on November the 3rd, and it's been quite a while since I've recorded anything. A lot of things have happened in that time, and recording them was the last thing on my mind, so I got a lot of time lapses of like getting to this point of the stuff on the table, like cutting it all and everything. So in my last vlog, I was getting ready for a craft show while also dealing with a viral video on TikTok, which made a lot of my products sell out. They are still sold out, and like they just keep dwindling. So I am really trying to get something up today to restock, because it seems like every Friday and Saturday it kind of like has a resurgence on TikTok somehow, even though I have not posted anything on TikTok or Instagram since, I don't know, like 3 weeks ago. But it just keeps recirculating because that's the only way that I really get traffic, unless it's like repeat customers, which there haven't been any that I noticed. I have some new prints as well that I am going to set aside because I don't have time to get those up today. I like to release new things on Fridays because that seems to be like almost proven at this point, not just guessing that Friday is the best day to list things. So I will wait. I didn't want to, but I will have to wait until next week or the week after. I really don't want to wait until the week after. So there's a craft show that's happening locally tomorrow and Saturday. No, actually today. Yeah, it started today because it's Friday. So that kept throwing me off this entire time, that this craft show is on a Friday and Saturday instead of Saturday and Sunday like they usually are. But it is being put on by a church, so that makes sense now. From that explanation, you can probably guess that I did not end up attending, which is a huge, it's a bummer, but not really, for reasons I'll explain. There is so much going on. It's in downtown, like in the city near where I live, and there's so much going on. My Facebook feed is like full of events that are going on, like those today, tomorrow, and Sunday. So downtown's going to be packed, and there's going to be a lot of people. And I was like, dang it. And I didn't really stop production, even though I decided to not do the craft show. I did not stop production, and there's no way that I would have had the stuff done. So I am sure that I made the right decision. I normally am scared of comments, but if you have experience doing craft shows, I would like your opinion about this situation that I'm going to explain. But first, let's just what's happened up until now. So my mom has not visited us here yet. We live in Georgia. Our families are both in Kentucky. My dad and stepmom have been down here to visit, but not my mom. So she came down last Wednesday and she was going to go back on Sunday, but she ended up staying a couple extra days because she was helping me get the fixtures and stuff, whatever you call that, my setup basically done, because I don't have any tools. We just moved into this place. We just got married like almost 2 years ago. We haven't really, tools aren't something that you just buy all at once, like I feel like everybody kind of just accumulates them. So we have a drill and stuff like that, which is pretty important, but as far as being able to cut things or whatever, like we have a handsaw. I was not about to do all this with a handsaw, okay? My mom does a lot of DIY stuff. She's remodeled pretty much every house that we've lived in since I can remember. She has done a lot of the remodeling. She worked with my dad. My dad was a handyman. She didn't like work with him as an employer, but she like he taught her a lot of things basically. And because he was a handyman with my grandpa for years and years, pretty much my dad could build a house from the ground up if he wanted to. So anyways, my mom, I was telling her about how I needed, to redo my fixtures and things, because I need to move this so I can sit down, because this is weird if I'm like bending over. These are all the ones that are folded so far. At previous craft shows, I look back now and I don't think they were professional looking, like as far as my setup and how I had things displayed and my branding and all of that. I have really come a long way with branding and things that I've learned about merchandising and things, and like even I was kind of going back to my retail experience because I used to work for a craft / home decor establishment, and I went around to three yeah, 3 different stores and help them like set up the store. So setting up all of the fixtures and the displays, and they had like a very specific way to do things, as I'm sure every retail chain does, like certain things that just look good, or how to merchandise things properly and all that. And that was really helpful, actually. So I had kind of been just in the back of my mind taking all of the things that I have learned into consideration, and I was like, okay, I need to step up my game with my displays. Like the usual 6-foot folding table with some stuff sitting on little risers was not going to cut it anymore, just because like if that's what you got, that's fine. But for me, it was not, like my business is kind of past that point. It's not a hobby. It is my full-time job, and I intend to scale up, hire people and stuff like that. And I want to look like I know what I'm doing. I've been beating this point into the ground, but there were some special considerations to that, given the specifics of this event that is happening like right now probably. So my mom came and helped me build stuff. Like we kind of talked a bit, sent pictures back and forth prior to her coming down, how I was going to set it up and what kind of fixtures I needed. And she ended up building new tables before she came down, and then we were working on shelves that would go on top of the tables, and then a pegboard kind of situation. So trying to fit within the confines of space that I had, because it was unusual. It was not it was an indoor thing. It's not your usual 10 by 10. Like I would have been perfectly fine if I had a 10 by 10 spot, but the space that I had would not even like even if I wanted to revert back to my old quote unquote display, a 6-foot table would have been very impractical for this space. So I'll talk about that in a second, but just what we did, we had to take the dimensions of this space into consideration, and I was like, I don't want to just make these to use one time and not be able to use them again. So we tried to make stuff modular or adjustable, and also that would be light enough for me to carry in and out of my car, because I'm not, I may look like I can lift a lot of weights, but I actually can't. I know it's a surprise. And that would be easy to assemble and disassemble without tools, because you never know. Sometimes you might forget to bring the tool that you need and have to try to borrow one. I don't want to deal with that. I'm trying to do everything with thumb screws or wing nuts and stuff like that I don't need a drill or anything to set up. And we took inspiration, or for some things tried to, for those displays that kind of fit together like a puzzle piece and don't require hardware at all. It's just like tension that kind of holds it together. But those are so expensive, but I understand why after trying to make one myself. And then trying to keep with my branding too, because a lot of the standard display things like grid walls and stuff like that don't fit in with my branding, because it's the stuff that I sell is natural, and the vast majority of it has no synthetic materials. So I was like, okay, a grid wall is coated metal, coated in plastic, and acrylic things, I'm not going to use those because they're plastic. So just trying to keep it natural and keep the focus on the products. That's a hard balance between your fixtures looking aesthetically pleasing and also not distracting from the actual product, letting them shine. So anyways, she had the tables mostly set up by the time she got here, which saved quite a bit of time. Basically, she just made folding tables, but narrower and a little bit taller, so I don't have to use risers, because 6-foot tables are pretty deep. And if you have not very much space, height is more important than depth. But then if you have a big display and a very busy show, you might want height and depth, because you don't have to restock things, So we got the tables set up and just had trouble. My mom worked her tail off, okay? I felt like a stick in the mud most of the time, because I didn't want to get in her way, because she's very much like me. If somebody tries to help me, they just the way that I work, kind of bouncing around, somebody else can get in the way, and then I might not understand exactly what she was about to do. So I was trying to help, but also stay out of the way and then kind of work on other stuff, but not just leave her alone to do the whole thing by herself. So some of the things that we tried, the concept was working, but the execution just kept, like, we kept running into issues with that. And I don't think I'm going to explain exactly what kind of issues. Like, drill bits that we used were not quite right, and the holes that we had drilled for shelves weren't level, and it is very obvious if your shelves are not level. And we were trying to not drill holes in the table to attach the shelves, but we ended up having to just for stability, because we wanted to keep the tables, you know, available to use without the shelves for something else later on, but you know, it is what it is. I can just use a tablecloth, whatever. That took a while to get that figured out. And then we started like last minute, so on like Monday, we realized that the pegboard that we were gonna do, I was gonna do one of those DIY pegboards where you buy plywood, mark the holes and drill them out. I was also having to make the stands for it, and I was using some videos that I found and stuff of other people making them where they don't need hardware. Kind of stand up on their own, and that wasn't working. It was going to take too long. There's just no way. And I also messed one up, like my fault. I messed it up because I drew out the plans and didn't like do a prototype or a test or anything. After I messed that one up, I did a prototype with paper because how those fit together is there are like long notches that kind of go together like that, and I did them too big so that the display was too short, and then you can't put wood back after you cut it out, so there was no way to patch it or anything either. So yeah, that was not good. And then last minute, my mom went out and I had found on Pinterest some people that had made pegboard displays with PVC, and I was like, that doesn't look professional, but if we paint the PVC like a matte black, it's hopefully not going to be as obvious that it's PVC. I don't know. Because you can buy metal pipes that are pre-threaded. You can just screw them together, but those cost an arm and a leg and are probably heavy. PVC, you just like pop these things in and out, and you can glue them if you want to, but like I think it would have been okay for now. Like the shelves look nice, work on that later, just do something for now. But I have a problem where I will just instantly, like, I have no control over this. For any event, any social situation, anything that I am doing, I will immediately have in my head an image of how the location is going to look, where people will be, how big things are, and if the event or whatever doesn't exactly look like that, it makes me upset. That is because I am autistic, if you didn't know that already. So there's nothing that I could do really about that, at least that I'm aware of. I mean, maybe being aware or having the mindfulness ahead of time that maybe it could look different, you know, but in my head, the space that I had was much bigger than the space that I actually had. Like, I'm talking 2 or 3 times as big. I don't know why. If I had logically sat down, okay, X amount of feet away, I know is going to be like this far. I'm pretty good with, I'm not good with miles, that kind of distance, but like feet and inches, great. But just in my head, the space was a 10 by 10 booth. Like, I don't know what I was, because I even drew it out on graph paper and everything, like to scale. But we got the tables most of the way finished. I was working on the pegboard while my mom was doing stuff with the shelves. And we got the pegboard kind of like, or the PVC frame at least, set up. And then I was like, wait a minute, let me just measure this real quick, because we were trying to figure out how deep to make the base of the pegboard. I didn't want it to be too narrow and the thing fall over, but also didn't want it to be too big or people were going to trip over it, because I was aware that I had a very small space. Well, I took the tape measure, as we had the table set up, I took the tape measure and measured out the distance that I had, and I set the PVC frame kind of where it would be within that space. And just pausing for a second, the day prior, I was like, wow, this is very stressful. I am very surprised and kind of pleased with myself that I haven't wanted to quit yet. Well, that goes back to the last vlog that I did where I was talking about how every time that I'm thankful or happy about something, it goes awry. So, but when I saw that, how much space that actually was, even without the pegboard and the pegs on it, I have quite frequently here, like at least in the past few years, have had, I don't know what the colloquial word for this is, but I have had vasovagal syncope, where I pass, like I feel like I'm gonna pass out basically, and like over stressful things or things that scare me. Kind of like those goats that faint when they get scared. And that happened when I saw how much space that was, so. Because it was not at all the space that I saw in my head, even though logically I knew that it... But that alone wasn't quite the problem. There are a lot of aggravating circumstances to this. So it was mostly a combination of the space issue and being stressed about really not having enough product to bring. And at that point I had just found out like a week prior that my husband was coming home from deployment like this weekend, like 2 days from now. I guess I was so focused on, I don't know, I was kind of trying to focus on everything, which does not work for me. So I wanted to have like all of this stuff done, the restock of the website, and like just get the craft show out of the way. And I was afraid, like it sounds really terrible, but also like if you are in a stressful situation, you probably would think the same thing, but like I was kind of hoping that he wouldn't come home like in the middle of all of that, because I have to, like I would have had to be working and doing this stuff instead of spending time with him. So, you know, I didn't know how else to explain that. Like I want him to come home obviously soon, but it wouldn't have felt fair to him to, you know, be working on this from the time I wake up till the time I go to bed and not having any time to spend together. So I guess that worked out. So getting to the problem with that craft fair in particular, I don't think it's like, it's not their fault necessarily, but even if I had mentally been more aware of the actual amount of space that I had, I don't know how I would have even made this work. I even posted about this on Reddit. If you had this kind of craft show set up, how would you do it? Because this event is indoors and the regular booth spaces were like 6 by 3.5 or something like that, which is weird to me because most people use 6-foot tables, so you can't even like walk around your own table. I don't know, but I picked like a medium sized to large booth. That was my preference, that I put like medium to large, and they gave me options for what I wanted, like how I wanted the space to be, but that was also a preference. Like I wasn't guaranteed it, and I didn't find out exactly what I got until about a month prior, maybe a little more. But they said you can have 2 booths side by side so that it's basically like a 12 by 3.5 foot space, or back to back where it's like a 6 by 8 foot space that would be visible on both sides of the aisle. And I thought I could do more with the one that's like in the middle, and I thought it would be good for, you know, obviously good for, because you'd have double the visibility, because you get people coming this way and then maybe they would see something on this side, and then, or if they didn't see anything on that side, if they come back around, they see something new on the other side. So that's kind of a hack for if you do craft shows, like if people are kind of walking around multiple times, change stuff up a bit as the day goes on so it looks fresh. But the way that it is, I don't think there was any way I could have all of my stuff out, even with the height of the shelves and the pegboard and everything were going to be 6 feet. And there was just no way. Like, I'll also have to draw you a diagram just so you can see like what I mean by, because the reason that I picked the deeper space was so people could walk in to the booth, because you get more sales, or you know, more people in that would be interested in buying something if they can actually walk into it. Because people can just, if your stuff is right up on the edge of the walkway, then people can just keep on walking. Like, you know, they don't have to stop to go in and look. And with that 12-foot wide, not very deep space, that would have been the issue, is like people not stopping to kind of step in, so to speak, to look at the stuff, because I have kind of proven that at my other events that I have done. I did some during early 2021 where COVID was still more of a concern than it is now, and I didn't really want people to come into the booth, but I had less sales because I had my tables kind of set up around the edge of the tent instead of inwards so that they were walking in. So there, even though that one side was 8 feet, which was fine, the other side, like the other way, was only 6 feet, and that was the walking room between the booths. So there was just no, like, how would you turn, even if we made, like, scrapped everything that we had already made and put different tables, there's just not room for people to be able to do that. And then if you kind of close it off and put some things facing this way, some things facing that way, people are going to forget about you. Like, if you've ever done a craft show or like some kind of event like that, you know that if somebody says, I'll come back around, they don't come back around. Because all of the other vendors was kind of in the middle of an aisle, and everybody else would have been like back to back, kind of facing the opposite directions. And my booth would have been turned the other way, and they would see the side of it as they're walking by, not the front. And I raised concerns to the coordinator that was very helpful and responsive, but I don't think it's appropriate to ask a coordinator like that how to set up your booth, because that's not really what they're there for. And I said that, like, I was not, at the beginning, like when I found out what size of space I had, I was kind of like raising concerns, like I don't know how to set up for that being open on both sides, and that there's not enough room for people to walk through. Like I could have walked through the space that I had set up or tested, but a larger person, or somebody with a wheelchair or a stroller, no way. And then where would I have even sat? Because 6 feet is not much. It is very small. Like, I think I am more than 6 feet away from the camera right now. And I know that, like, you're not really, it's kind of better if you stand during events, but also, like I said, I have that fainting goat thing, so I would like to have a chair, just in case. But, like, where would I put that? Somebody would have to walk right by me to come into the booth, no matter what side I sat on. So I was thinking about the middle, but then there wouldn't be room to walk around me. So I kind of wanted to go, even though I forgot that today was Friday, I kind of wanted to go and see. I'm not going to have time tomorrow, but because they said that they had never done that style, like the open on both sides kind of booth before. And this is not the first year of the event, but they said that they were trying that and had like 2 or 3 people that were doing it. So I was kind of wanting to go like see what the other people did, even though I don't know who it was, but it was just better for my mental health. Like, I didn't even immediately feel better once I made the decision and like sent the email that I was not going to show up. And I felt bad that we had worked so hard for almost a week, basically nonstop, on these things that now I can't even, I'll have them for next time I try to do a craft show, which I don't know if it's going to be this calendar year. Probably not, because it's kind of late to sign up for anything. But if you have done craft shows or anything, let me know like how you would handle that kind of setup. Because even without all the other stuff, like not having the product and, you know, my husband coming home and the stress and, you know, good stress and also bad stress at the same time. Like, I just don't know how I would have done that any differently. It's kind of the wrong orientation to have like an island kind of setup where the stuff is kind of in a U shape or something, like in the middle, and then they can come in from either side, but I don't know. And then I was afraid that people would come in from one side and then like leave on the other side and then just skip all of those vendors that were like behind me. I just think that was not a good situation all around, and I probably should, like, they offered to change my booth and move things around to give me the longer one, but I was like, no, I'll just stick with it because I kind of want to make it, like, I saw it as a challenge at the time. You know, it's something that I could have done, you know, I just had to think outside of the box. And as much as I tried to do that, it just didn't work. And then I was going to use the photos from that for applying for other things. it was a juried craft show. If you've never done that before, basically a juried craft show is where they don't just accept everybody. Like, they're usually, if it's juried, it's expected to make a bit more money and be more prestigious. And they want to make sure they have a good mix of different kinds of vendors and not, you know, 5 people selling the same thing. And looking at the vendor list on their website that was approved for this year, holy cow, I am Like, I have imposter syndrome that I even got accepted, especially because I apparently didn't include any previous booth photos. I think because for some reason I couldn't find my old ones, even though I found them since then, but I don't think I included any. I just sent pictures of my products. And I guess they liked the products so much and they were like not similar at all to everybody else or anybody else. So I was surprised that they even accepted me to that one, because there was a lot of people that applied. And it was probably better to cancel it anyways or drop out, or however you want to say that, instead of just throwing stuff together and it not looking great, or, you know, not professional, or it just ended up not working at all. Because that's the last thing you want, is to get there and realize that your fixtures and stuff don't fit or aren't going to work. Because it sucked having to send that email and cancel. I mean, they are not going to refund my money, obviously. I knew that up front. I just didn't want to drop out because it's like, I could potentially burn bridges if you do that, but they just said, okay, we hope everything's all right. Hope you apply again next year or something. So they didn't tell me not to bother applying again, so maybe that ended up being okay. I don't know. And hopefully that was enough time for them to get another vendor in there. I mean, I guess they probably did. So from now on, I'll just consider this an expensive mistake. And the booth wasn't that much. It was like less than 150, I'm pretty sure. I can't exactly remember, but like, it wasn't terrible. And I had set aside quite a bit of funds from that the viral video. Because first time it happened, I used that chunk of change to buy this guy right here. And then this time I set aside money to buy fixtures and stuff. So next time, and from here on, I will not take any weird booths. And now I'll have a lot of product to restock on my website, so well, when I get it done at least. I'm trying not to overthink this restock either, because I have some products that, one in particular that a lot of people have signed up for restock notifications, and I have the material, but I don't have them cut or sewn or anything like I do with all of these. But do I want to wait until I have that to restock those? I mean, if I do wait, more people will sign up for the notifications for it. Kind of an update to what I was talking about in the last vlog with paying myself. I kind of went on a rant about it, and I don't remember how much I kept in the edit, but I think I was talking about how I'm changing how I pay myself out of the business income. So that has been working very well. So I've been cataloging all of my orders in, I can't never remember the name of that, Airtable. I've been cataloging all my orders in an Airtable spreadsheet, or whatever you call them. I'm still not entirely like too familiar with it. But then for each order, I have it calculate the material cost and the labor cost for each order, and then I use that to figure out how much I put for materials and how much I put for my like my paycheck. And then from the profit, I will pay my fixed expenses like my Shopify bill and ShipStation and all of that stuff, and also the shipping. I just figure out how much the shipping was for all those orders, and then put that, you know, budget that for shipping expenses. And then out of the profit that's left over, I will pay the monthly things, or, you know, things that come out regularly. And then from there, I take that into percentages, and I have another Airtable thing that kind of does that automatically. I'll put how much profit that I have, and then it'll calculate like so much percentage for toward my paycheck, so much toward like paying off my credit cards, so much for more materials, and then I put some for, obviously, for paying taxes, and some for machine repair or replacement, and like emergency savings and stuff like that. And that's been working really well.